Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dawn of Drones podcast. If it's a little crazy here, it's because we're live here in North Dakota from the UAS Summit and Expo, and it's amazing. We are having a great time. By the way, we're knee deep in Defenders Month, and we've got some amazing guests today. We have Brigadier General, United States Air Force retired, and current University of North Dakota president, Andy Armacost, with us. I'm going to tell you a lot more about him, and I can't wait to dive into this interview with him. And we also have with us Rob Menti, retired Colonel, United States Army, who's with Northrop Grumman. So what an incredible cast of characters we have for you today. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. By the way, this is live, so go ahead and drop your comments, your questions, your positive encouragement in the chat. We absolutely love that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with you, General Armacost, President Armacost. He's got so many titles, I don't even know what to call him.
Somebody will call me Andy. Hopefully that happens today too. So, that'll be a transition in our relationship.
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
So I have to tell you a fun fact before President gets into his background here. So we were both assigned at the United States Air Force Academy together, and I was his lawyer, I was his JAG, and he actually retired me in 2018 from active duty. So General Armacost has a special place in my heart for doing that for me. And sir, it's such a pleasure and privilege to have you. Please tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, it's great. And just so everybody knows, Dawn is sitting immediately to my right, but I'm going to pretend like she's on the screen in front of me. But so I had a 30-year wonderful Air Force career, much of which was at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. I spent 20 years on the faculty as a department chair and also as the dean of the faculty. My academic background's actually in a field called operations research. So it's like applied math and engineering and business all kind of rolled into one. And so I served in a variety of capacities in the Air Force as an analyst. I was the chief analyst at Air Force Space Command for a small portion of my career. But largely it was about educating our cadets at the Air Force Academy. And then upon retirement in 2019, I was hired to serve in this amazing role as the president of the University of North Dakota. What really attracted me to the position was, if you look at the mission statement of the University of North Dakota, it talks about creating leaders and how do we educate them and give them the experiences beyond the classroom that make them into really good leaders. So that should, for somebody like me who spent so many years at the Air Force Academy, that mission statement was a huge draw. And this campus is stunning. I like to say it's not a well-known secret. It's well-known in circles, but the rest of the country needs to know what's happening here in Grand Forks. And I'm just delighted to be here to share the work that's happening in UAS on this webcast. So thanks.
Yeah, we are going to get into that. I mean, the amazing things happening here on this campus in large part because of President Armacost and his amazing team. They're all here. And just the whole ecosystem in here in North Dakota is amazing. Northrop Grumman is a big part of that ecosystem. We're going to talk about Grand Sky and some of the things going on there. But before we get into that, let's talk to you, Rob, a little bit about your background, if you wouldn't mind.
Thanks, Dawn. I am Colonel Retired Rob Menti. I was 26 years in the United States Army, primarily as an operator, as a field artillery officer with multiple years downrange and theater. And then upon retirement, moved to Minneapolis to work on precision weapons and unique capabilities that Northrop Grumman brings to bear, especially in the growing area of counter UAS and counter unmanned systems.
Yeah, so by the way, the flyby guys are out there. Great to see you guys out there. Thanks for joining us here today. We're going to talk about basically, because this is Defenders Month, everything that is happening here, not just for defense, but there's so much workforce development, research, and development happening here that's going to feed into our national security and defending the nation. So let's start with that, General Armacost, and talk a little bit about the research and development that you all are doing here at UND on the drone side, counter drone side. I know I just recently read that you all just received $1 million grant from the Department of Homeland Security, and And I know that's just one of so many different lines of effort. So I'll go ahead and let you tell us a little bit about what y'all are doing here.
Yeah, well, I should go back a couple decades too. Don't worry, it's not gonna take long. But the work that happened on radar systems here at UND actually laid the foundation for our ability to operate beyond visual line of sight. And so our northern Plains test site is just an incredible feature. It really makes North Dakota a special place for being able to test unmanned systems, unmanned aircraft. And that stemmed from the research activities here on campus. And now, of course, the Vantis system is being developed and implemented, and just really offers that capability across the entire state of North Dakota. But we have, again, lots of work going on directly in UAS. We were the first undergraduate program in UAS in the nation. We have active research areas going on in UAS, including work on detect and avoid. We have the partnerships that you mentioned on counter UAS, active research efforts in the form of small business tech transfer research activities, STTRs, with a number of small businesses where they come to UND, they partner with our researchers, and then they test on our great site. And it's a real incredible opportunity for us to build those partnerships across the US. So active research areas. Of course, we're looking forward to space as well. Tomorrow, I'll talk about how we're extending a lot of our research ideas to do unmanned systems in space. Of course, satellite control and UAS control, there's some similarities and some differences, and we're now looking forward to the work that we're going to do in space too.
Well, I mean, there's so much to talk about, really, and so many areas to explore, space included. I mean, I think most people don't appreciate what a critical role space plays in UAS and certainly in our national security. So let's talk a little bit about counter UAS and maybe kind of hand it over to Rob a little bit, because Northrop Grumman is doing so many things, including with counter UAS. By the way, we had Brian Erickson from Northrop on our clubhouse last Friday, and it was absolutely spectacular. Just talking to the crowd about it's MACE, right? MACE system. So let's talk a little bit about that, Rob. And I think you've got some show and tell as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Dawn. And to follow the General's comments, we are very fortunate to be just a few hours from here in Minneapolis, and honored to be able to participate in this growing ecosystem of UAS and counter UAS capability here in North Dakota. We frequently go out to Camp Grafton for testing. A very, very good site to use, that's close for us to use, as well as we look forward to continuing and deepening our relationships with the university and with the ecosystem as it continues to grow here. When it comes to counter UAS, Northrop Grumman obviously has capabilities across the spectrum for this type of application. As a leading provider of defense, space, and aerospace capabilities, as a large prime, we are very focused on integrating disparate systems, as well as providing the command and control capabilities, such as FAD, IBCS, FAD-C2, and other C2 platforms that will enable these very important mission sets. My particular portion of Northrop Grumman, Minneapolis, and Armor Systems really focused on multi-force, multi-domain force protection. Really focused on the tactical point defense type mission, utilizing our Bushmaster cannons and advanced ammunition to be able to protect forces or law enforcement agencies, both here in the homeland, in DoD, as well as our global partners around the world. And in the background here, you may be able to see we have our MACE demonstrator up here on display at the summit. But here I have a small model of it. I'm not sure how we get.
Here, let's get. Oops, I'm like breaking it for you here. Okay, let's see. Can you? I think y'all can see this. And by the way, so we're all like former military. I'm very sensitive to acronyms. So the MACE stands for the Mobile Acquisition, Queuing, and Effector. Okay, and this is what it looks like. So go ahead, Rob. You want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yep, it's an integrated end-to-end system that, when coupled with our cannon capability that you can see here, it is a full kill chain capability that has integrated detection, tracking, identification, and defeat, both non-lethal and lethal capabilities, all integrated into one open architecture system. What makes it very unique is that it can operate self-contained i.e. not on a larger network, or it can, due to its open architecture, it can be rapidly integrated onto any existing command and control system or network to be able to share our sensor capability, as well as pass cues to various effectors, be it a cannon, missile, high-powered microwave, or directed energy. System is very much component agnostic, so we realize that counter UAS, there's no silver bullet. It's going to take a layered defense with many different applications and capabilities that have to be tailored for each specific customer and mission set. So we've designed the system on purpose to be able to rapidly change out components depending on what the customer wants, or more importantly, as technology continues to advance as well. And what is really important, leveraging our Bushmaster cannons that are used in every service, as well as in 66 countries around the world, is our advanced ammunition, which I think you can see.
Yeah, speaking of silver bullets, no pun intended.
Not a silver bullet, but this is our new proximity fused ammunition that is getting fielded by the Department of Defense and select global partners. And that really enables the system to be able to do simultaneous ground security as well as counter UAS security out to the ranges of the cannon systems. And that's usually within a few kilometers. But when we tie that in on a network with our sensors, we're able to feed our sensor information to the larger air picture to provide that layered defense that you need to be able to see threats at long range and have the time to decide how one is going to deal with those threats. Additionally, we have an integrated jamming capability. Again, we're agnostic. We can integrate any jammer, but the one that's currently on the platform is from Citadel Defense, and that is their Titan system.
So Rob was just on a panel here, by the way, with Defend Solutions, right? D-Drone and Pierce Aerospace, talking about counter UAS. And like the biggest takeaway I got from that panel was there literally is no silver bullet when we talk about counter UAS. And that's probably a great segue back to General Armacost, President Armacost, and maybe some of the work that you're very specifically doing in counter UAS. If you can share with us, what you're doing with DHS or maybe some other parties on that topic.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about being the president of a university is some of those details aren't known to me. So I know we have several
plausible deniability. I love it.
The great news is it's a sizable contract with a great sponsor. We've done work with other agencies on counter UAS. In fact, we've partnered with GTRI is doing some support to UCOM on some exercises where they've actually asked for our support as well on counter UAS, and so it's a rich field. We hope. I mean, the aspiration is through discussions with our congressional delegation to have an even broader role in counter UAS. We've been in this UAS business for decades now, and we have a lot of capability to offer. We know it from the non-counter perspective, but also from the counter perspective as well.
That's actually another great segue. General Armacost just mentioned the senators that are here that really support this ecosystem. Senator Hoeven kicked off this event this morning, talking about a lot of things. He was out there yesterday at Grand Sky. By the way, if you guys have not heard of Grand Sky, it's this incredible public-private partnership with an enhanced use lease between Grand Forks Air Force Base and Grand Sky, where they have Northrop Grumman, General Atomics, a whole bunch of other companies out there doing a ton of UAS research. And by the way, the Northern Plains UAS test site and Vantas are moving their offices there. We had the ribbon cutting for that building yesterday. So that's just this has been ongoing, but it's just the start, because the senator this morning also talked about Sky Range. If you haven't heard of Sky Range, it's all about Northrop Grumman's Block 20 Global Hawks. Thank you, Global Hawks, that are getting decommissioned. Some of you are tracking this. The United States Air Force is decommissioning those, but they're not dying. They're, as the senator said, they're graduating. And what they're doing is they're going to convert them to be basically airborne platforms to test hypersonic weapons and missiles. So super cool. That's just an effort that is just beginning now. And no pun intended, the sky's the limit. So much going on there. But let's talk also about some of the workforce development, because the senator also talked about that this morning. And one of the biggest challenges across the board in this country right now is just having a workforce show up at all. But when you think about autonomous weapons and autonomous unmanned aircraft or any autonomous systems, it's training that workforce of tomorrow, which, General, that is something directly in your job jar at this point. Can you tell us a little bit how you're trying to inspire the next generation to want to get into these career fields and work on autonomous vehicles?
Yeah, one of the best ways we do that is actually through internship programs and making sure that our engineering majors, our aerospace majors have a chance to see things in action over the summer, to see how what they're learning actually can be put into good use for, in this case, national defense. And so we have a large number of interns that play out at Grand Sky, both with General Atomics and Northrop Grumman. And it's really just a great way to build those connections early on. We actually have expanded our both graduate and undergraduate internship programs. We have a program called Accelerate to Industry that's also talking at the summit this week, where we'll go into the details of how we're increasing that capacity to demonstrate and to showcase how life in certain industries, in this case defense-related industries, can be very exciting for our graduates. In addition, we have two-year programs across the state as well, not through UND, but the North Dakota University system comprises 11 schools, and our two-year schools have great programs, associates programs in technologies that focus on unmanned systems, often the maintenance or the operation of these systems. And it's just a great way to partner between the two-year schools and the four-year schools. And the city of Grand Forks has really made a commitment to workforce development as well. There's discussions of what we call the Career Academy. It's a career and technical education workforce development center that's going on. That's being developed here in town, and that will pull all of our UAS components together, look for opportunities both for high school kids, for two-year graduates, and for four-year graduates to come together to really satisfy those workforce needs. It's exciting opportunities for sure.
For those that are in the educational field, CTE, or career technical education, is really the coin of the realm right now, and a lot of colleges like UND are. And even at the high school level are getting into that. And frankly, it can open up a lot of grant funding opportunities because a lot of states are very interested, like North Dakota, are very interested in developing that workforce of tomorrow. So speaking of which, Rob, let's kind of circle back a little bit on the counter drone and Northrop, and this idea that your company is not, people think of Northrop Grumman, they think, oh, this is a defense giant, but there's a lot of crossover, right, between the defense side and the commercial side. And frankly, I don't think a lot of people really appreciate the nexus there. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe even with the MACE system, how counter UAS and the things you're working on can cross over to the commercial sector, civilian side?
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Dawn. What we purposely did when we designed MACE as a capability demonstrator, as I said, we can rapidly change out components, but components that are currently on here from our partners from SRC and PVP, as well as Citadel and Tower Solutions, are fully commercial and exportable products. And why that's important is the technology in this area on the commercial side is moving so fast and it is so capable. It is no longer as it was in the old days where we had to rely on DoD heavy R&D investment to drive capability in the commercial sector. They are getting very much blurred. That also applies in the security and defense type mission sets. We really say that anywhere with a fence has got to have counter UAS capability, because those threats are just like the threats that you have always protected yourself against on the ground. They are now in the aerial layer. And we see this not only from commercial facilities protection or critical infrastructure, but also with our DHS and Border Patrol partners for securing the homeland, and then obviously outside of the United States with our Department of Defense partners and our global customers. So really, it is becoming a very blurry line of defense that with non-state and state actors participating, it really takes everyone to work together in a layered approach, because there is really no silver bullet to this type of security requirement.
Well, you know, go ahead,
Can I have
sir.
a do-over?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Always
sorry.
you can have. Yeah.
So it's
The
really
general
not,
can have whatever he wants, just for the record.
not really a do-over. Let's get the mic
Go ahead.
in my direction.
Yeah, we're like playing with this mic
Not
here.
really a
in case
do-over. My last answer was focused on commented on defense applications, but really the work at UND is so broad for commercial applications and defense applications. In fact, if we think about the areas of expertise that we have across the campus, energy research and medical research and the great engineering work that goes on, think about the applications of UAS. For example, rural health. How could you use UAS for rural health care? In other words, delivery of medicines or collection of specimens, and to really connect them more readily through UAS to their providers. So there's just a huge opportunity in energy, of course. I think it's well known companies that are doing inspections of energy facilities. I mean, it's just a huge area, and UND is at the center of a lot of those pieces of work. So great partnership with small companies, with big companies to pull off this magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I'll say to that also is, you know, look, there is clearly a nexus between the commercial side, the civil side, you know, and the military side. We're seeing that not just for national security, homeland security, but when you think of critical infrastructure, I think the latest statistic I saw was 90% of all critical infrastructure is owned by the private sector. And, you know, look, we had Charles Werner from Drone Responders, Chris Todd from the Airborne Incident Response Team on here to kick off this month. And they're both showing up at the Energy Drone and Robotics Coalition event in 2 weeks. Why? Because it's the cops, it's the first line of defense, the public safety folks. When there is an incident, and usually it will involve critical infrastructure in this country, whether it's natural disaster, man-made disaster, terrorist attack, you know, those folks need to know what they're, you know, how to respond. And many of them do now have drone programs. I believe Charles said there's about 4,000 public safety agencies in the United States alone that have drone programs. So, sir, what you're doing at UND, whether it's on the commercial side or on the defense side, there's always going to be some kind of connection. And it's just so critically important that people do understand that. Let's talk a little bit, though, about this drone threat, though, because, Rob, I was in a different clubhouse on Saturday. My buddy Adrian Doko does the drone club, and you know, there's a lot of folks dialed into that, and people naysaying like, oh, the sky is falling, there's not really a drone threat, people are just fear mongering. And I mean, look, the three of us, we've been in national security for most of our careers until now, but even so, clearly we're still dabbling in it, and Rob, you're knee deep in it with Northrop. For people to think there's really not a problem here, it's like a little bit head scratching to me, because clearly there is one. So can you, and I'm not just talking on the battlefield, right, in the United States, and not just dropping over, you know, contraband in a prison. That's one area. What else are you seeing? I think you guys had 4 things up on the screen as main areas.
Yes, so that's a really good point, Dawn. And the threat from unmanned systems, and you know, we're talking drones here in the air domain, but really it is unmanned systems in multiple domains. The technology is evolving so quickly in all the domains: ground, surface of the water, aerial, or under the water, that it is really amazing. Those of us that are a little bit older, that were around for the IED fight that we had about 15 years ago in Iraq and Afghanistan, we saw a rapid evaluation and evolution of technology in that regard. But that was really only driven by threat actors and threat states, not so much by the commercial world. What we're seeing is the technology that's in these unmanned systems is driven by a connected internet at a global pace that is changing at a rate that is really unprecedented in history, and moving much, much faster than traditional government acquisition programs can react to counter those threats. And if one just looks at the headlines in many parts of the world, especially in the high threat areas in the Middle East and other areas in Eastern Europe, those attacks by unmanned systems are happening on a nearly daily basis. In 2019, there was a very large attack on the Aramco oil facilities in Saudi Arabia that directly affected world oil prices around the world and affected oil output for many days after that attack.
And just a foot stomp, that wasn't a military target. Like this was a civilian, right?
Yes,
Civilian target. So, you know, to think that, oh, this isn't possible or we're just fear mongering. I mean, these things are happening, they're real.
Yes,
yeah.
And it absolutely will happen here in the homeland as well. You know, we've been extremely fortunate that it has not happened yet because these are very cheap. They are very ubiquitous. They're very easy to operate and very easy to weaponize. And then with the technology of what we're doing right now, of the internet and video, a threat can leverage that event to be worldwide influence in a matter of minutes. And that is the real fear that we need to take into account. And as Dawn said about our infrastructure, it is a widely known fact that our infrastructure is at grave risk from these threats due to the immense scale and size of our infrastructure here in the United States.
Let's not forget the impact outside of the atmosphere as well,
Yes.
right? If we view
Yeah.
our space assets as
Absolutely.
unmanned systems, there are certainly risks, and that's going to become contested space if not already.
Well, and we always talk about public perception, and all it takes is one event, and it's going to set the whole industry back, right? Because if it's an attack with a drone, then it's all about drones. And so let's talk a little bit about public perception, because building what you're building here, General Armacost, and you know, the drone program you have, and inspiring the next generation to be this workforce of tomorrow, that has positive bleed over into the local community. And I know you're here at UND, you're deeply enmeshed in the local community. Can you tell us some of the initiatives that you have ongoing to really show the positive side of drones to the local community above and beyond the school here?
Yeah, so we have a pretty aggressive STEM outreach program, and drones play an important role in that. In addition, we have a drone racing program. We hosted the, oh gosh, I think the last one physically was in 2019 that was hosted here, and we had a virtual one last year. It's just a great opportunity to showcase what you can do and capture the imagination of young middle school and high school students early on. And then they'll immediately see what we're talking about, right? That when they get the experience with hands-on work and understanding just how, I hate to say it, how easy it is to control these things and to fly them, you can pretty quickly understand you can fly them into places that they shouldn't be flying, right? They can, as we talk about the negative impact of these systems, you know, their ability to damage easily civil infrastructure or military infrastructure, it becomes pretty clear when a young student can connect the dots and then get inspired to do something about it, right? To follow a course of study that will actually put them in the driver's seat to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, that's great. I actually saw your poster about the drone racing, and I was really excited about that. By the way, sir, you don't know this yet, but my husband and son are coming out here next week to check out the campus. So, and you know, like programs like drone racing, the FPV community out there, like getting those kids involved. U.S. drone soccer, my buddy, retired Major United States Air Force Kyle Sanders out in Colorado, doing the amazing things he's doing. All great stuff to inspire that workforce of tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit with you, Rob, about how not only individuals but maybe companies can plug into some of the opportunities that are out there for Northrop.
Yes, we obviously, as a large prime contractor in many different domains, we are always open to having dialogue with many companies, both large, small, because everyone knows that innovation happens all over the place today, especially with the amount of distributed workforces that we have in this new era. Additionally, we are partnered with many of the universities, and we truly appreciate all the initiative that is coming out of universities like UND to provide the highly educated STEM-oriented workforce that is in incredible demand. We are constantly in need of having those individuals that are able to think creatively, think critically, and do it very rapidly, much more rapidly than folks of our generation in terms of how fast they have to adapt to change, be willing to change, and learn the new technologies. So we are an open partner in this quest as we try to move the workforce forward into the 21st century.
No, that's awesome. And I was just, when I was at the ribbon cutting yesterday, I actually met one of your colleagues, Rob, who is creating a course on digital engineering and for UND. And I was like, wait a minute, what is digital engineering? He's like, we do everything on the computer, like create digital twins. So we don't have to do everything in the physical realm. We can test it all out on the computer and then build that thing and it'll be perfect. And I was like, wow, that is so interesting. I mean, so many different opportunities in career fields. And people think about drones and it's not just STEM, it's STEAM too. Like I always like to say A, because I think I'm an example of that. I'm not an engineer, but I'm in this area, whether it's lawyers or even artists that are using drones to create images or other art. It's just amazing the opportunities that are out there with drones for sure. General Armacost, let's go back to you and talk a little bit about, you've been here, gosh, has it been 2 years, 3 years?
It was June 1st of 2020, so I'm now into the second year, but still early in that second year.
Okay, and real knee deep into COVID there. When you started, I think we all, have memories of that. So looking back on the tenure that that you've already had here, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment thus far?
That's bold to say. I have a series of great
accomplishments. He does. Of course, we know he does.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is to really focus on building the relationships with the people who are involved in the campus. And so in spite of COVID, I think we did that very well as a campus. So I think the biggest, the most significant thing over the first year was a sense of ease, a sense of peace that everything was going to be okay going into COVID and coming out of COVID. But we're trying to craft a great strategy for the university, and I think one of the biggest announcements we had recently was the announcement of our university partnership with the Space Force. And so General Raymond came out, and he allows me to say this because it's true. We were the first university to sign to become a member of that University Partners Program, which is really exciting. So this opens up educational opportunities and research opportunities to work directly with the U.S. Space Force. So I think our growth in national security and space, and given my background, perhaps it's natural, but this was a real big statement. The other thing I'm really proud of is building the partnerships across the state. I mentioned earlier the connection between the 4-year schools and the 2-year schools, and I just looked up from my screen, and President Doug Darling is standing over here. He's from Lake Region State College, and I'm really proud of the relationships that we're building across the state to make sure that programs like UAS have a connection both at the 2-year and the 4-year programs. And you mentioned digital engineering as well. Just a side note on that. Our Dean of Engineering was just talking about that addition to his engineering programs just yesterday in a meeting with some of the folks who are here at the summit. So a lot happening, but I think the biggest accomplishment is just coming in and thriving during COVID is probably the single biggest thing that we focused on.
And I love how you are setting people up for success too. So the General didn't mention their launch program, but it's a really unique initiative where students that maybe don't have the highest GPA can come here. They'll be normal freshmen, living in the dorms, on campus, doing all kinds of things, but they have a partnership with one of the 2-year anniversary universities where those kids will take very targeted, kind of smaller size classes to help them kind of adapt to the college scene and hopefully do well, and then just kind of matriculate to be sophomores with everybody else. And it reminds me, General Armacost, a lot of like the prep school and what we did at the Air Force Academy, and I've never seen that on the civilian side at a university, and I think that's a really spectacular way to get a bunch of really talented kids that maybe are late bloomers, give them an opportunity to really shine here at UND. So I think that's incredible that you have that as well.
Yeah, we also have 2+2 programs. So again, folks who are attending school somewhere else can do 2 years there and then 2 years here. We have partnerships with private liberal arts colleges so they can get a physics degree at a private liberal arts school and at the same time take advantage of our online programs to get an undergraduate degree in engineering at the same time. So there's a lot of creativity. And then finally, let me just comment that relationships with our tribal colleges are important as well. UND can provide a great avenue for success for these students as they come either directly from tribal lands directly to UND, or they graduate from 2-year programs from their local tribal college and then come to Grand Forks. So a lot of exciting opportunities there too.
Well, that's amazing. I didn't know about that, sir. And you know, when you think about the tribes and drones, I think Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and the incredible things they're doing out there. And I know the Cherokee Nation just wound up being a player on the drone advisory committee for the Beyond Visual Line, or the ARC. I'm sorry, the advisory rulemaking committee for the Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC. So really awesome to, again, kind of enhance diversity in the industry like that. That's incredible initiative. Rob, we're getting close to our end time here, but let's talk a little bit with you about what do you see next on the horizon? You know, you've got your MACE system, you're constantly adapting to the various threats out there with the technology. What do you see kind of on the horizon next for your portfolio, or maybe more broadly for Northrop Grumman and counter UAS or UAS?
Well, I'll keep it down at our level here at Armament Systems, we're really focused on, and we're already investing and moving forward with some partners to really take this capability fully on the move and beyond on the halt or mobile, fully operating while the platform is moving. Obviously, this has been done for years and years on airframes or on ships, but in a ground platform environment, extremely difficult due to size and power limitations, as well as operating in a very highly cluttered environment. So we're moving very aggressively in that realm to bring the capability to be fully on the move capable. And then additionally, in terms of where we're really investing hard is, like everyone else is today, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and autonomy, so that we can reduce the cognitive load for the operator, be that a border patrol agent, a security guard at a critical infrastructure site, a soldier, or one of our global partners. It is all about making the capability operate as seamlessly and in the background as possible, so that human interface can focus on the job that it needs to do.
Yeah, I'll just throw Sailor, Airmen, Marines, and Coasties out there too. So speaking of autonomous, do you envision this guy being autonomous and not needing a driver in the seat at some point?
Yes, that is fully capable now. We don't have a requirement to do so yet from a customer, but these days technology is moving so quickly, it is no longer really a function of is it technically possible. It is really a prioritization and resourcing issue and a customer demand to create that capability. We are fully able to operate with man in the loop or on the loop, depending on how the customer would like the system to operate. I think it's going to take a little bit more time yet for folks to be comfortable with full machine-to-machine interface, but we have to keep that in mind because our peer adversaries around the world may not have the same way of looking at machine-to-machine interface for weapon systems the way that we do. So we need to keep that in mind as we move forward. And the pace of change and speed of change is going to be incredible. And we heard that today from the Department of Defense leadership there as well. That is the thing that we really have to keep in mind in this space is the rate of change is absolutely hyper velocity.
Yeah, as I was listening to some of the speakers this morning, I was thinking Ricky Bobby, right? If you ain't first, you're last, faster, faster, faster. That seems to be the theme of the day when it comes to technology and everything going on. And maybe that's a great way to then kind of pivot back to General Armacost and ask you, sir, what do you see kind of on the horizon? Like what's next? You talked about so many of your incredible programs to help build the future of this autonomous workforce. What's on the next? What's on the move for maybe 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, there's a lot of combinations of activities. The data science component with the autonomy work that's going on with UAS. As I mentioned before, the connection of UAS with space. We're exploring what it would take to actually purchase an appropriate fleet of UAS that would allow us to test out space-based concepts here on the Earth or close to the Earth.
Wow.
And so there's a real opportunity, I think, for us to position ourselves in an important spot. We're also now looking at the stratosphere as well, and what does unmanned flight and unmanned control look like in that region as well. And that's, I think, probably an I don't want to say undervalued, but underworked area right now. So whole lot of things going on. And of course, those connections I talked to, figuring out how UAS connect to the other research areas on the campus, medicine, energy, and so forth. And just some extraordinary opportunities.
Well, there are. I mean, you've got an incredible medical school here. You've got a law school. I can think of ways to connect and let's talk. It's so cool, right?
Well, you mentioned the law piece of this. We've been talking about kind of an institute or a center for law and technology, and we also have an oversight group that talks about the ethical use of unmanned systems as well. So that pulls in lawyers and philosophers and folks who look at ethical components, and so that we can't just characterize this as a technical and an operational issue, but there's a societal and an ethical and a legal piece of this as well.
Absolutely. And super fun fact, I just actually finished writing a book, a textbook actually, sir, on law and technology, unmanned aircraft systems, law and policy, a primer for the drone industry. So it's coming out soon, awesome. Unmanned Safety Institute, and can't wait for that to happen. I think it'll be ready for this spring 22 semester. So, all right, just a few minutes left here. Rob, I'm going to give it to you first. Maybe that 30-second elevator speech. Anything you wanted to kind of say before we dial off and wrap it up?
I'd just like to say that for Northrop Grumman Armament Systems, we are really defining possible every day, leveraging a lot of our young, very intelligent engineers to rapidly solve problems. Behind me is our MACE demonstrator 2 years ago. That vehicle did not exist, and it has now been out on demonstrations for multiple customers here in the United States as well as overseas this year. So if you are interested in working with Armament Systems in Minneapolis, please reach out to us. We're always interested in retaining new talent as well as working with partners to help solve the critical needs of our customers, both here in the United States and around the world.
That's the best way, Rob, for people to reach you or to tap into Northrop, like you just said.
At northropgrumman.com, there is a counter UAS page and a link to that off of the major website there, and that has all the contact information for whoever in Northrop Grumman that you're interested in discussing counter UAS capabilities, because we do everything from C2 to effectors to systems. So there's a wide array of capability available from Northrop Grumman. Awesome.
And C2, command and control, for those who don't know, and effectors could be like the mitigation efforts, whether it's lasering something out of the sky or some other kinetic thing like this cool round here. So, all right, General Armacost, over to you, sir, for your last 30-second summary here.
Yeah, all I can say is come fly with the Hawks.
There you go.
We are the Fighting Hawks. We have an amazing ecosystem here. Don't be frightened by cold winters. The actual climate here is stunning. We've had amazing summers and great springs and falls, and we hope to see you here. And to you, Dawn, my friend, I'll give you a presentation.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you.
UND President's Coin, which has the nice logo, and then the eternal flame on the backside. This is an important symbol of learning on our campus.
Oh, that is so cool. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. And, you know, we had a saying in the Air Force, I mean, this is Grant Force's, not Minot, but it was, why not Minot reason's the reason, right? So, but I'll tell you what, the air might be cold on occasion, but the welcome certainly is warm. And it's been amazing, just like the 24 hours since I've been on the ground. I can't wait to come back and just, you know, see folks like General Armacost and reunite with him, and to meet Rob in person and see all the folks that are here. It's really been great. So that's pretty much a wrap. Tomorrow, by the way, join us on Clubhouse, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We are going to have some folks from this. We're going to be live here again. It's going to be Terry Zimmerman from BotLink. We've got Will Cromartie from Spire Global, and none other than former USAF professor and now UND professor and dean, Dr. Bob Kraus. So it's going to be a great conversation. Please join us on Clubhouse. And next week, this is an amazing, also my last fun fact of this podcast. Next week, we have with us Brigadier General, active duty, United States Air Force, Houston Cantwell. He worked with us both at the United States Air Force Academy. He was our vice superintendent when General Armacost was dean and I was the head JAG. And he is now running the NATO drone program. So you want to learn all about NATO, join us next week. It's going to be spectacular. Thanks so much. We are right at the 45-minute point, so we are out here. See you soon.